The last words my uncle ever said to me before kicking me out were, "This house, this food, even your ideas, none of it was ever really yours." I was 20, holding the blueprint for the first working prototype of an AI-assisted robotic arm that could reduce factory production costs by 60%. And he looked me in the eye and stole it. Let me back up a bit. My name is Julian Reyes, and I'm the orphaned nephew of Eduardo Reyes, the CEO of Reyes Manufacturing Group, one of the biggest industrial suppliers in South America. After my parents died in a car crash when I was 13, Uncle Eduardo took me in. From the outside, he looked like a hero, powerful, respected, wealthy. But behind closed doors, he treated me like a stray dog he was forced to feed. "You want to be an engineer?" He'd scoff. "Fix the gate first, then we'll talk dreams." Every meal came with a reminder that I didn't belong. Every holiday photo had me cut out of the frame. Every family dinner was a performance. Me, pretending not to hear the jokes, the backhanded compliments, the way his kids smirked when I talked about machines or code. Still, I worked. I studied mechanical engineering at the local tech school by day and rebuilt broken electronics from scrapyards at night. I lived in the basement of his estate. No windows, no door lock, just wires, soldering fumes, and silence. And then, it happened. I built something real, a robotic arm, lightweight, AI-assisted, designed for assembly lines. I used salvaged motors and coded the behavior model from scratch. It wasn't flashy, but it worked. And I knew, this could change everything for me. But I was naive. Instead of keeping it quiet, I showed it to him, my uncle. I thought maybe, just maybe, this would finally prove I was worth something. That I wasn't just the freeloader in the basement everyone whispered about. He listened, watched, asked questions, took the schematics, then smiled. That was the last time I ever saw that blueprint. 2 weeks later, Reyes Manufacturing announced a breakthrough automation system developed in-house. They filed a patent under his name. My design, my code, my work. I confronted him in front of his boardroom. His only response? "You live under my roof. You used my tools. Your little toy belongs to the company now." I was stunned, frozen. His security escorted me out. His daughter, my cousin Sophia, stood by the glass doors, watching, smiling. I left with nothing, no money, no ID, not even my laptop. He wiped everything. For 2 years, I disappeared. No social media, no contact. Everyone thought I had run away in shame. But I wasn't hiding. I was building. I worked construction during the day and programmed at night in a garage a friend let me borrow. I designed a better version of the robotic system. Smarter, faster, fully modular. This time, I didn't make the same mistake. I filed the patents in my name. I founded a small startup posing as a consultant for overseas factories. Investors laughed until my prototype cut their production costs in half. Orders rolled in. I signed exclusive contracts. Big names started calling. Even Tesla's Latin America division showed interest. And just last week, I got a call from a journalist at Forbes. They're publishing a feature story, The Unknown Genius Behind a $4.2 billion Automation Empire. And that empire? It has one face, mine. But here's where it gets interesting. They're publishing it this Friday. And guess what happens this Friday? The Reyes Family Business Gala. Every shareholder, every board member, every partner, all in one room. And I just bought the building where the event is taking place. Because I'm not just revealing the truth. I'm taking back everything. The moment I hung up with the Forbes editor, my hands were still shaking. Not from fear, from fury. I stared at the deed in front of me. One Reyes Plaza, the glass-covered pride of my uncle's empire, now had a new owner. Me. I bought it silently, through a shell company, the same way he used to hide his offshore accounts. The papers were signed. The ink was dry. And in 72 hours, every Reyes board member would walk into a building they thought was still theirs, only to find out whose name was really on the title. But before the reveal, I needed to settle something that's still twisted in my chest. My past. After my uncle stole my invention, I became a ghost. He didn't just erase my name from the patent. He destroyed my credit, froze my student accounts, and quietly spread the story that I'd lost it, mentally, after my parents' death. He was never stable, he told people. Always had strange ideas. Thought machines could think better than humans. Even my godmother believed him. She sent me a message that said, "I hope you find peace, wherever you are." I found something else instead. Purpose. But nothing hurt like the betrayal of my cousin Sophia. She was the closest thing I had to a sister. We grew up together. She used to sneak me extra dessert from the kitchen when the maids were told not to feed me. She cried when I got expelled from school for hacking the grading system, something I never even did. And yet, the day I got dragged out of that boardroom, she watched. She didn't say a word, just stood there in heels and a tailored suit, smiling behind glass. That smile haunted me for years, until now. Because last night, I got confirmation. Sophia Reyes was officially appointed Vice President of Reyes Manufacturing Group. My replacement. She didn't just watch my downfall, she climbed over it. The injustice of it all hit me like a truck. 15 years old, sweeping garage floors. 18, working part-time jobs while coding AI at night. 20, homeless. And now, they were all feasting on the fruits of my vision. So I made a decision. They weren't just going to lose their power. They were going to see the face of the man they discarded, the face they tried to erase, and they were going to see it together. That night, I called my legal team. I want every contract we've signed with suppliers, investors, and engineers tied to a non-disclosure gag release. "Julian," my lawyer said cautiously, "you do realize if you go public this way—" "They went public first," I cut in. "They humiliated me in front of their entire board. This time, I want them to squirm. I want them to explain to their partners how they missed out on the largest automation platform in the hemisphere." We had 3 days. Every inch of One Reyes Plaza was redesigned to perfection. I replaced the welcome signs with minimalist logos of my startup, Autonomec. The top floor, formerly Eduardo's executive suite, was stripped bare and refitted as my private observation room. Surveillance feeds, drone cams, audio setups. I wanted everything recorded, but nothing prepared me for what arrived on my desk the night before the gala. An email from Sophia. Subject, "We need to talk." My heart stuttered. I hadn't heard from her in over 2 years. She wasn't supposed to know I was alive, let alone where to contact me. I opened the message. "Julian, I know what you're planning. You don't understand everything that happened. Uncle Eduardo didn't just steal your invention. He used it to cover something up, something worse. If we talk now, I can help you, but only if you promise to listen." I stared at the screen, my pulse pounding in my ears. What the hell was she talking about? Cover up what? I hit reply. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, and then my phone lit up with a second notification. Another email, from a blocked sender. Subject, "You're not the only one who kept receipts." Attached, a photo of me, 19 years old, sitting in the basement workshop. Blueprints, schematic codes, handwritten notes, and standing behind me, Sophia, holding a flash drive. I didn't sleep that night. I kept staring at the photo. Me, 19 years old, hunched over a soldering board in my uncle's basement. My blueprints taped to the walls. And behind me, Sophia, smiling, holding up a flash drive like it was some kind of prize. The timestamp said it was taken 3 weeks before my uncle filed the patent. My heart was pounding so loud, I could barely think. Sophia had always been silent through everything, and I thought that was betrayal enough. But now I had to ask myself a much darker question. Was she part of it all along? I didn't respond to either email, not yet. I needed answers before I gave her the chance to twist this story again. So I called in a favor. There's a private cybersecurity firm I've worked with before. People who specialize in corporate espionage, digital trails, and recovering deleted files. I sent them the photo and asked for everything they could dig up on that flash drive. Metadata, file names, Copies, if possible. 12 hours later, I got the report, and what I saw made my blood run cold. The flash drive had held exact replicas of my schematic files, labeled and timestamped under folders titled R&D, Reyes Project. There were even voice memos attached. One stood out. I played it, hands shaking. Sophia's voice. "Uncle Eduardo, I copied the files like you asked. Julian thinks I'm just checking on him. He trusts me completely." I had to pause the recording. I felt like someone had knocked the wind out of me. The cousin I used to build pillow forts with, the girl who cried when I lost my parents, had sold me out for a promotion. I wanted to scream, break something, but instead, I sat in silence for a long time. I let the betrayal settle, burn, sharpen me. I finally understood. This wasn't just about stolen ideas anymore. This was about being used, erased, rewritten in someone else's story. And it wasn't just Eduardo. It was Sophia, too. But now I had proof. And just in time. Because the gala was tonight. By 6 p.m., the building was lit like a crown. Glass gleaming, staff in place, cameras rolling. I stood at the top floor, watching from behind tinted glass as black cars pulled up to the curb below. The Reyes family, the board members, old partners, and new money, all laughing, toasting. None of them knew. At exactly 7 p.m., I sent the signal. Every screen in the building, reception monitors, lobby walls, even the digital signs in the elevator, went black. Then lit up with one line, "Tonight's gala is brought to you by Autonomec." Confusion rippled through the crowd. I watched them look around, whisper, pull out phones. My uncle frowned. Sophia froze. Then came the second message. "Property of Julian Reyes." My uncle's face turned white. He turned to Sophia, barking orders. She pulled out her phone, tapped furiously. I imagined her realizing that none of her access codes worked anymore. And then I made the announcement. Through the building's main audio system, my voice rang out clear and sharp. "Good evening, honored guests. I'm Julian Reyes. If you're surprised to hear from me, good. That means this is working. I'd like to welcome you all to the last Reyes Gala, ever." Chaos erupted below. Sophia grabbed my uncle's arm, whispering something. He turned toward the elevators, heading for the top floor. "Let him come." I walked to the conference room, where I'd prepared one final presentation, slides showing the real patent dates, the legal documents, the files stolen from that flash drive, every lie, every betrayal. But when I stepped inside, someone was already there. Sophia. She was sitting at the table, hands folded, waiting. "I figured you'd want answers before you burn it all down," she said quietly. I said nothing, just pressed play on the audio file. Her face went pale, but she didn't look surprised. "I know what you heard," she said. "But it's not what you think. That recording, it was staged. Uncle Eduardo made me say it. He said he'd cut me out of the family if I didn't cooperate." I narrowed my eyes. "You expect me to believe that?" She pulled out another flash drive and slid it across the table. "Because this one," she said, "has everything. Emails, meetings, proof that Uncle Eduardo didn't just steal your invention. He sold part of it to a foreign military contractor. Under your name." I froze. "He what?" "Comment the number 3 if you want to see how deep this conspiracy goes, and what I'll do when I find out what was sold in my name." I stared at the new flash drive in silence. Sophia didn't flinch. She just watched me, eyes steady, waiting for a reaction. I wanted to throw it across the room. I wanted to scream, accuse her, demand answers. But I didn't. I've learned that revenge isn't loud. It's precise. So I pocketed the drive, looked her dead in the eye, and said, "You'd better pray that's real, because if it is, everything changes tonight." She nodded once, almost like she'd been waiting years for that moment. I left her there and went straight to my private control room. Monitors showed every corner of the building, board members sipping champagne, investors laughing, my uncle shaking hands like he still owned the air around him. He didn't. I did. And now, it was time to show him. I inserted the drive into the master terminal, and scanned the contents: emails, contracts, bank transfers, export documents. My blood ran cold as I pieced it together. Eduardo had used my name and stolen schematics to authorize a sale of prototype AI weapons guidance software to a shell company linked to a restricted defense buyer overseas. Not only did he commit fraud, he could have dragged me into an international scandal that would have ended with handcuffs. My handcuffs. And the worst part? He did it 3 months after kicking me out, meaning he never just wanted to erase me, he wanted to ruin me. I took a breath. Then I began the final phase. I opened the encrypted feed we'd prepared, a live broadcast to every major partner, investor, legal counsel, and journalist on our contact list. One press of a button, and the entire room downstairs would be on camera, broadcast to the world. It was time. I stepped into the grand ballroom. The room quieted almost instantly. My presence was like ice water down their spines. Eduardo turned, confused. "What are you doing here?" he barked. "This is a private event." "Correction," I said, pulling out my phone. "This is my building. This is my event. And everyone in this room is about to learn the truth." I tapped the screen. A massive projection screen descended behind me. Lights dimmed. The crowd shifted uncomfortably. First slide. A copy of the patent documents, with my name, dated months before Eduardo's. Second, the voice memos from Sophia. The room gasped. Third, screenshots of every transfer and forged contract connecting Eduardo to the illegal software sale. I turned to face them. For years, you applauded a man who built an empire on a lie, who stole from the orphaned kid living in his basement, who tried to wipe my name from history. Eduardo lunged toward me. "You think this proves anything? You're nothing without security," I said calmly. My team stepped in instantly. 2 guards grabbed Eduardo's arms, holding him in place. "You can't do this!" he shouted, thrashing. "You don't have the authority." "I do," I replied, stepping closer. "And I'm not done." The fourth slide appeared. An email exchange. Sophia to Eduardo. "Once the sale clears, I want my share. He'll never know we took it." The room went silent. I turned to Sophia. She froze, lips parted, no words coming out. "You said you wanted to help," I said quietly, "but you were in on it the whole time." Her voice cracked. "Julian, I didn't mean to. He forced me." "Save it." I turned back to the room. "This isn't just a betrayal. This is theft, fraud, conspiracy, and I have evidence. All of you who supported him, who dismissed me, silenced me, you're complicit." The final slide appeared, a live video feed of a breaking news report. Julian Reyes files $1.2 billion lawsuit against Reyes Manufacturing. Department of Justice opens investigation. Screams erupted, phones rang, a woman fainted. And through it all, I stood calm, focused. But just as I turned to leave, a final alert pinged on my phone. Urgent. Anonymous source sends internal company audit. I opened it. Dozens of redacted files. One line stood out. Initial schematics provided by Maria Reyes. My mother's name. The one person I thought had died with my father. I felt the room tilt. My chest tightened. I whispered, "What the hell is going on?" I couldn't breathe when I saw her name. Maria Reyes. Not in a birth certificate, not in an old photo album, but buried deep inside Reyes Manufacturing's internal audit files, tagged as the original contributor to the AI schematic they'd stolen. My mother wasn't just the woman who raised me. She was the first mind behind the technology Eduardo built his empire on, and he erased her too. Suddenly, everything made sense. Why she and my father had left the company, why we were cut off from the family, why Eduardo took me in only after they died. He didn't do it out of guilt. He did it to make sure what she built stayed under his control. And when I started showing signs of the same brilliance, he made sure I disappeared too. My hands trembled, but my mind was clear. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. This was about legacy. The next morning, I met with my legal team and a government investigator who'd flown in overnight. We prepared a full report, not just about the theft, not just about the fraud, but about the cover-up. Maria Reyes's name was back on every document, every prototype, every contract, every place where Eduardo had crossed it out and replaced it with his own. And at noon, we went public. A full press conference, broadcast live. I stood on stage holding up a photo of my mother in her workshop, surrounded by sketches and circuit boards. She was the real genius, I said, and for 20 years, her name was buried under the feet of a man who called himself a visionary. Today, we rewrite the story. The fallout was immediate. Eduardo Reyes was arrested that evening for fraud, corporate espionage, and illegal international sales of defense software. His bail was denied. His board seats revoked. Every contract frozen. He went from being listed on the cover of Industry Titan magazine to being escorted in cuffs across the evening news. Sophia. She tried to negotiate immunity, claimed she was coerced. But the voice memos and the email asking for her cut made that impossible. She lost her position, her reputation, and every single share in the company. As for me, I didn't just win the lawsuit, I won the story. I renamed the company Reyes Nova, Nova, meaning rebirth. Every employee who'd been silenced, overlooked, or mistreated under Eduardo's regime was rehired with equity. We made innovation public again, transparent, ethical. I launched the Maria Reyes Foundation for Emerging Engineers 2 months later. Our first scholarship went to a teenage girl from a low-income neighborhood in São Paulo who reminded me of, well, me. But despite everything, the moment that stayed with me most didn't happen in a courtroom or a boardroom. It happened in my old basement workshop. I went back one last time. The dust was thick. The same broken light flickered overhead. And on the far wall, behind a rusted shelf, I found something I hadn't seen in 15 years. A notebook, my mother's. Inside were early diagrams, notes, and a line written in her handwriting. If they don't believe in you, build it anyway. I stood there, tears falling on the same concrete floor where I once soldered my first circuit board, and I whispered, I did, Mom. I really did. The world had tried to erase me, tried to erase her, but we came back stronger. Not with revenge fueled by rage, but with truth, vision, and something they never understood. Conviction. Because power can be taken, money can be stolen. But legacy? Legacy endures. Comment the number 3 if you want more stories like this, where truth wins, justice hits hard, and the underdog rises. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss the next twist.